Hello everybody, this is Mr. Lipchick, and today we're going to discuss how different economies throughout the world are beginning to transition into free enterprise economies and the problems and benefits that go along with that. Okay, moving from a centrally planned economy to a market economy is a difficult process for centrally planned economies. One of the first steps that these economies must take is something called privatization. Privatization is the sale or transfer of state-owned businesses to individuals. Privatization permits individuals to make the decisions as to what is produced and consumed, making the economy more responsive to consumer needs and wants. Privatization can be accomplished in a number of ways. A government enterprise can be directly sold to an individual. Shares in the government business can be sold to individuals. Vouchers or certificates can be given to individuals to purchase shares in the businesses that are privatized. Privatization is often a painful process, as unproductive facilities will close, eliminating jobs. Frequently, only a few firms will remain in certain markets. Nations going through privatization often do not have the political, legal, and cultural institutions to protect the ownership of private property. Free markets will not succeed unless individuals are secure in their ownership of property. A country's legal institutions must be developed in order to resist the influence of criminals. Western nations have had these institutions for centuries, while many LDCs are forced to develop them rapidly. Often, workers in centrally planned economies do not have the work ethic to succeed in the market economy. The economic transition of Russia provides a good example of a transition to free enterprise. In 1917, the Russian Revolution led to the creation of the USSR, or Soviet Union, out of the former Russian Empire. The Soviet Union was a communist state where land, labor, and capital was controlled by a central authority. The standard of living was very poor, with few political or economic freedoms for its citizens. By the 1980s, the Soviet Union was experiencing severe economic hardships. The USSR had committed 2/3 of its gross domestic product to the production of military goods, leaving little room for consumer goods. Consumer goods that were produced were of poor quality, as citizens had to buy from state-owned stores. State ownership of farms gave little incentive to farmers to produce, resulting in food shortages. In the late 1980s, a Soviet leader named Mikhail Gorbachev saw the need for economic and political reform. He believed that economic progress could not occur without political freedom and instituted a policy of glasnost. Glasnost is a policy of openness introduced into the Soviet Union in the late 1980s. Prior to that, the Soviet government had been very secretive. Along with glasnost, there would be perestroika, a gradual change from centrally planned economy to free enterprise. As Russians had little experience with democratic institutions, the transition to a market economy proved difficult. Many people lost jobs, benefits, and pensions. In 1991, some communist officers and politicians staged a coup to try to restore a communist government. And to the right, you'll see Boris Yeltsin, who was elected president after the attempted coup in 1991. The coup failed, and the Soviet Union collapsed, with many member nations breaking away. So Russia today is much smaller than it once was. Although Russia today has a great deal of economic potential with a highly literate population and vast natural resources, it is governed by an authoritarian leader. To the right, you'll see Vladimir Putin, Russia's current president, who has used force and political repression to maintain his power. Russia's wealth has become concentrated in the hands of a wealthy elite, and political freedoms are once again limited, with dissidents being jailed and protests banned. China has also been transitioning to free enterprise for many years. Since the Civil War that ended in 1949, China has been under a communist government. Communism under the leader Mao Zedong was very destructive in China, lowering production and consumption, consumer markets, and agriculture. And in 1976, Mao died, and his successor, Deng Xiaoping, became China's leader. Deng Xiaoping began introducing market reforms into China's economy. Deng allowed farmers to make a profit on some of their crop, increasing agricultural production. Deng also promoted the production of light or consumer industries in China. And special economic zones were created, designating certain regions where foreign investment was encouraged. A great deal of independence was allowed, and foreign companies were allowed to operate. While China's economic development has resulted in some material progress for its people, other problems still remain. Human rights abuses, political and religious oppression, environmental pollution. If you look to the right, you'll see some of the air pollution that has resulted from their rapid industrialization. Some political scientists believe that the Chinese government will eventually fall as the economic power of individual citizens continues to grow. That's our presentation for today. Thank you, and I look forward to seeing you in the live lesson.